It is Tuesday, May 19th, and today we are reading chapters 3 and 4 from the Artifact Enigma, Book 1 from the Daniel Codex. If you miss any chapters, you can go to my YouTube channel and you'll find them all there. And you'll also find the Lyric Chronicles, Book 8, and you will find Book 1 of War Mage for now. As the actual audio with an actor becomes available, we'll have to take those down for copyright reasons. But for now, you can go back and hear any of them. And lots more audio is coming out. Gothrow will be on audio, War Mage will be on audio. And as the Lyric Chronicles comes out June 29th, we're going to put all of that on audio as well. So lots coming out. War Mage Book 4, Undeniable, from the Never Ending War series will be out this Sunday. It's on pre-order right now, so you can get it on pre-order so you don't have to think about it, but it will be out Sunday. And Gothrow Book 3, which is a mega book, is also on pre-order. So lots of great stuff coming. Witches of Pressel Street just had a book come out. If you missed that, that's in the Terra Nobis universe. And Lone Valkyrie Book 3 will be out soon. So hope everybody's doing well. We made it to Tuesday, and we are going to read chapters 3 and 4 for one of my favorite books. Hello Grace, hello Diane, hello Mitch and Nancy, and I don't know if anybody watched, what was that kids show when I was little, and you'd have to be about my age, where you looked into the mirror and they said hello to everybody out there like they could see you. I was young enough to think maybe they could. Big believer in magic from the start. This Friday, we are doing another Zoom lunch at 1 p.m. Central Time. Same Zoom link if you have it. That's the same one. 5 lucky fans will win a pizza delivered to their door. You have to enter every week in order to get a pizza delivered or a chance to win. So if you haven't entered yet, there's still time. We are having a surprise guest. So hope you show up, because it's going to be fun. And we do not tape them, so you got to be there in order to enjoy it. If you're not there, you won't see it. Hi, Diane. And you're really going to love who's coming this Friday. The following Friday, which I think is the 29th, Craig Martell will be the guest author. So that should be fun too. Craig and I always have a good time. He's like a brother, which means a lot of kidding and snarky humor and poor advice. All right, so chapter 3 from the Artifact Enigma, which is also in box set if you want to get all 4 books and read them all. And I think it's 99 cents. I don't know about other countries. So Beth, if it's not, I'm sorry. But it is all in KU. Okay, chapter 3. A few hours later, and wearing a nice blue suit, Daniel made his way to the King Street Old Town metro station, his hands in his pockets. Nothing like a nice walk in Old Town Alexandria when the weather was beautiful. He smiled at a sight in the distance, a row of trees that grew on the other side of the tracks and the tower of the George Washington Masonic National Memorial rising above them. He wondered if Tommy had visited the place and checked out the museum. Sometimes it was nice to remind a boy that not all heroes wore spandex and were in comic books. Daniel chuckled at the mental image of George Washington, powdered wig and all, wearing spandex. The boy liked the never-ending rumor that the founding father was really a light elf. It would be a few more blocks until he arrived at the station. His immediate task was crossing the street and surveying the neighborhood without letting on to anyone watching from a window. He glanced back and forth, his attention lingering on a corner grocery store. He narrowed his eyes. Numerous liquor and lottery signs covered most of the large front window, making it hard to see inside, and a huge established 2001 sign didn't help. A sliver of open window allowed him to check the interior. A large man in jeans and a white t-shirt leaned across the counter, shaking his finger. His mouth was curled into a menacing sneer. Haven't seen him around before, and I don't like that look. Daniel pivoted in a neat turn and hurried toward the grocery store. He opened the door, only to be greeted by furious barking. After poking his head in, he spotted the owner's golden retriever behind a baby gate in the corner near the front of the store. He ignored the bunches of bananas on the counter that were crowding the take-a-penny saucer. In Alexandria, every grocery store had bananas. It was almost like it was part of the license. I hope some things never change. The man leaning over the counter murmured something. The owner swallowed and went pale. What's going on, Charlie? Shakedown? Daniel sauntered forward, keeping a light smile on his face. Time to engage in a little local civic education. The stranger pointed to the candy rack in front. Laffy Taffy? Charleston Chew? What's this shit? It's last century crap. Your sign says this place was started in 2001. It's been almost 40 years and you're still selling shit like it's the Great Recession. Charlie swallowed, holding his hands up in front of his chest. You'd be surprised. I sell what people buy, that's all. If no one bought them, I'd replace them. The rude man slammed the palm of his hand down on the counter. You trying to piss me off, asshole? Okay, I've heard enough, thought Daniel. Daniel cleared his throat. Excuse me, sir. The stranger spun around. He was a good head taller than Daniel and more than a few pounds heavier. All muscle and no fat from the looks of it, but that didn't do much to intimidate the CIA agent. The thug sneered. You're gonna have to wait, pal. I'm having a conversation here with Mr. Recession Candy. He thinks he can mouth off to me. Can you believe that shit? He clucked his tongue and took a step forward. You see, there's an issue here. This is my neighborhood, and you know, there are certain basic rules of etiquette, social norms, if you will, that should be observed. I'd almost go so far to say they have to be observed. The other man's face scrunched in confusion. His front teeth were stained brown from tobacco. What the fuck are you talking about? The agent took another step forward, keeping a smile on his face. He held up a hand. Look, I get it. I don't recognize you, and I come to this store a lot, so I'm guessing you're new. And since you're new, you wouldn't know about all these social norms I just mentioned. That would be the most likely and only valid excuse for your behavior. The man reddened and his watery eyes narrowed. A mix of anger, frustration, and confusion painted his face. Charlie backed up against the wall as the dog continued to bark. The stranger glared at Daniel. What the fuck are you talking about? Who the fuck are you to mouth off to me like that? You think you're a hero? No, I think I'm Daniel. A flicker of recognition passed over the man's face, but it vanished quickly. Never heard of you, the thug growled. Now get the fuck out of here unless you want me to smash your face into some Charleston Chews. Daniel shrugged and lifted and shifted into a better position, just in case. You still don't get it. I live around here. Like I said, my neighborhood. You can think of me as the kind of man who takes a vested interest in ensuring that people are polite to one another around here. This seems to be an argument about something that really doesn't matter. So maybe it'd be better if we went our merry ways and forgot about our issues with Candy before we all do something we regret over something so stupid. The thug's face tightened and he glanced at the door. This is working, thought Daniel. He's frustrated and pissed, but his little brain must be telling him that it's not worth it to escalate the trouble with someone he doesn't even know. Daniel, huh? The man asked, that look of recognition returning. Yeah, why? You heard of me? Maybe. Daniel nodded toward the door. Then this should be easier for you to figure out. Please leave. The dog continued barking even louder, occasionally letting out a low growl. The thug shook his head and glared at the dog. If you don't shut that fucking mutt up, maybe I'll shove a bunch of Charleston Chews down its throat until it chokes. Oh, pal, thought Daniel. I was really trying to give you an out here. Pops would say you made your own bed and now it's time to lie in it. Daniel's smile vanished and he adjusted his stance, spreading his feet. His hands curled into fists at his side. What did you say? The man shrugged. You got a problem with me shutting that yapping piece of shit up? Daniel? He spat the name. Okay, gotta do this the smart way. Can't show too much. Plus, don't want to rip my suit. I like this suit. Okay, I see how it is, said Daniel. The man grinned. Yeah, glad you see it my way. Daniel slammed a fist into the man's face. The thug stumbled back, holding his face as blood trickled out of his nose. You motherfucker, I will fucking kill you for that. Without hesitation, the thug charged him, but he took an easy sidestep that had the dog eater almost slam into the wall. Daniel spun and kicked his foot, planted it squarely against the man's ass, and helped him complete his journey to the bricks. With a growl, his opponent pushed off the wall and turned. He wiped blood off his face. You think you're a big man? I'm going to break every bone in your body. The thug threw several quick punches. The agent blocked them, fighting against his instincts as opening after opening presented itself. An obvious arm lock here and there, or a good throat strike. It's been a while since I fought a good old-fashioned regular goon, thought Daniel. I forget how pathetic they are. This is like watching a kid come at me. He dodged a wide swing and followed up with 2 quick jabs of his own. His opponent grunted and took a few steps back. At least the man didn't go for a weapon. That was one of the few things that kept the CIA agent from risking showing even half his true skill. But it was time to end things. If the situation continued, the asshole might damage something in Charlie's store. Daniel waited for his opponent to charge him again, then smashed a fist into the top of his head. The dog hater dropped to the ground, his head thudding on the hard tile floor. He let out a long, pained groan. The dog stopped barking and wagged his tail. Charlie leaned over the counter. "Do yourself a favor, pal, and just stay down." The agent leaned to whisper menacingly into the man's ear. "Like I said, social norms and etiquette. But if that's too much for you, I've got a really, really simple rule you can follow. Don't ever threaten a fucking dog when I'm around." He pushed a sensitive nerve just under the man's clavicle. The thug groaned and twitched in pain. The CIA agent yanked his opponent up by his collar and dragged his heavy frame to the door. He flung it open and literally kicked the man's ass again, this time out onto the sidewalk. "Consider your passport to this neighborhood revoked. If I see you around here again, we'll have a longer and more private sit down, and I doubt you'll walk away so easily." The dog hater stumbled to his feet, holding a swelling jaw. He jogged down the street in a wide gait, alternately holding his ass and then his jaw. 10 yards down the road, he turned around. "I'm only the messenger. You don't know it, but you're not the damn mayor here anymore. You got in a few lucky licks today, but you'll see. Next time, I'll break your face." That was why he knew my name. Someone sent him. Daniel took a single step in the man's direction. His target's eyes widened and he spun and sprinted away. What the hell was that threat about? What trash is trying to move in now? Time for a few more questions and some pest control soon. Maintenance spraying makes for a clean garden. The CIA agent shook his head and stepped back into the store. "You okay, Charlie?" The other man nodded and pressed his hand against his chest. "I'm okay, just a little rattled." "Is that the first time they've tried to pressure you?" The old man hesitated and looked down. "No, shady guys have dropped in a couple of times, but this was the first time they got so rough." Daniel gritted his teeth but forced himself to smile. "Next time, you call me sooner. Can't help you work on a solution if I don't know about it." Charlie laughed. "Guess that's why we all call you the mayor. You're more a mayor than the real mayor." "I'm merely a man who likes a peaceful and quiet neighborhood." "No, you say that, but I've lived here longer than you've been alive. Too many people don't want to get involved when they see something bad going on. It's even worse nowadays because you don't know if it'll be some strange magic nonsense. But you don't walk away, ever." Daniel shrugged. Charlie looked him up and down. "Nice suit. You heading out on a buying trip for the shop?" "Not like I can tell 'em I only wear a suit when I'm on CIA business," thought Daniel. "Yeah," he answered. "I'll only be gone for a few days at most, but if you have trouble, I can come right back. You have the number, right?" The shopkeeper pulled a phone out of a drawer. "Yeah, it's still programmed in the phone that you gave me. I keep it handy, just like everyone in the neighborhood does." Daniel could only hope no one ever started thinking too deeply as to why he'd given them all burner phones instead of a simple phone number. From what he'd heard, a few people sensed that he was more than a simple shop owner, but they didn't want to risk knowing more. Many of them assumed that he had access to dangerous magic because of the shop, but they didn't care as long as he defended the neighborhood from thuggish dog haters and the like. "If you are okay, Charlie, I'll head out." The store owner shook his head and pointed to his dog. "I'm fine, and he's not barking anymore. That means the danger's gone." Daniel waved. "See you in a few days." He stepped out of the shop and took a moment to survey the area, looking for anyone out of place or packing weapons. A light stream of pedestrians strolled around, but no one looked dangerous. Normal-looking cars drove up and down the street. The agent continued toward the metro station. When he'd confronted the man, he'd assumed the idiot was simply a clueless outsider, but the final threat made it clear that something far more targeting was happening. Gang? Organized crime? Far too sloppy to be related to anything with the company, but they won't appreciate it if I get wrapped up in something strange. Daniel shook his head. You would have to worry about it later. Time for the day job. And that is chapter 3. And thank you, Beth. And on to chapter 4. I grew up in Alexandria, by the way, and on the Virginia Seminary, and know the place well, although it has changed quite a bit since I lived there. The Beltway was brand new when I was late teens. That's how long ago it was. The metro hadn't even started when I was a teenager. All right, chapter 4. He emerged from the metro station and glanced around. In Old Town, he might only be worried about local pests infiltrating his neighborhood, but now that he was out of his neighborhood, he couldn't count on the support of the locals. A spy who made it to old age was a spy who paid attention to his environment. No one's ever gone after me in Alexandria, but it's not like it'd be impossible to track me down. No one more dangerous or obvious than a surly businessman presented themselves as he made his way down the street for several blocks to a private parking garage. He approached the locked front door and ran a key card over it. With a beep, it opened, and he stepped into a lobby connected to an elevator. The small black elevator again required his key card, along with a destination code. It made a low hum as it took him to his floor. He stepped into a well-lit underground parking garage, and a narrow road led toward a closed metal gate at the end. Not sure if it's worth it to rent a spot here. Good comic book money, but it's better than having to go all the way to the company to get my wheels. Daniel pulled out his phone and opened the garage app. He tapped in the code and a loud, echoing grinding filled the air. A moment later, the center of the road opened, the concrete pulling apart, and a silver Jaguar G-Type rose on its own personal elevator. It's almost worth it simply to see that awesome sight every time. Besides, it's not like I'm paying for the car. He marched toward the vehicle and slipped into the driver's seat, the quality leather molding itself to his body. Damn, that's comfortable. It was almost hard to drive his own car at times when he knew this beauty sat in a garage waiting for him. Daniel smiled. There were more than a few nice toys built into the car, but he wouldn't need them driving to the office. At least he almost hoped not. He entered a few commands on his car's touchscreen, and the garage door rose. He revved the engine a few times, letting it purr before zooming out of the garage and onto the street. Wonder what everyone back in Old Town would think if they saw me in this thing. Too bad I can't let them, even if it's annoying having to take the metro to get to the car. Until he left the CIA, he needed to maintain his cover, and he doubted the company would let him keep the car after he resigned from their employ. He liked this ride far better than some of the other enhanced vehicles the agency had loaned him. He sighed. Bureaucracy. His grandfather had mentioned it, and the old man wasn't wrong. Daniel was proud to serve his country in the CIA, but his division was still new. It focused on protecting the country against foreign magic, particularly Orosarin, and that was a good thing. He knew they were playing catch-up, but it shouldn't have taken the government almost 2 decades to start adapting to the threat. Chaos had reigned in the early years, but the whole point of the CIA was to anticipate foreign threats so the country wouldn't have to deal with that kind of mess. The agent didn't care that there were existing organizations tasked with that mission within the government. They had participated in covering up the truth about magic, and in a sense, had left the world and the country less prepared. Orosarin aligned magically with Earth over thousands of years, allowing magic to seep back to the planet. Even if true magic had never completely disappeared, the energy flowing now made things like half-elves and gnomes a daily reality. Unfortunately, magic was no guarantee of morality, any more than wealth, technology, or any other tool available on Earth had been since the dawn of civilization. Magical criminals were enough of a threat in many cities that specially licensed bounty hunters now supplemented the police force. And in addition to SWAT teams, larger cities maintained special anti-enhanced threat forces. Regular people shouldn't have to live with that kind of uncertainty and fear. If we're doing our job at the company, at least we can help cut down on the amount of crap the locals have to deal with, thought Daniel. He shook his head as he switched lanes, enjoying the smooth handling of the car. Magic had its place, but precision engineering was a type of magic all its own. Can't complain too much. The past is the past. And now we've got everyone focused on the same thing, protecting the country from all threats, foreign and domestic. So what if a few of those foreign threats come from a little farther away? Please lean forward, sir, the security guard asked with a bored expression. Daniel complied, sticking his eye against the retinal scanner. The guard's computer beeped and he nodded. Thank you. Badge, please. The CIA agent pulled out his badge and handed it over. The other man waved a scanner across it and tapped a few commands into his computer, then moved it over the badge again. Confirmed. The guard handed the badge back. Have a good day, sir. Oh, just so you know, Nessie is looking for you. Thanks. Daniel clipped the badge on his suit jacket and gave the man a polite nod. Have a good day yourself. As much as it would have amused him, the company didn't have the Loch Ness Monster in a secret pool at the bottom of Langley. In fact, despite the return of magic, no one was even sure the monster existed. There would always be a few mysteries left in the world. In this case, Nessie was the current head of the Special Assistant Division, which no one dare call sad. In other words, she was the queen of gadgets, among other things. Not the first one he worked with at the CIA. Most were a little afraid of her and only whispered her nickname, but he had no problems with the woman. Daniel continued past the checkpoint and down the hall toward the express elevator. With a ding, the elevator doors opened, and he stepped inside. He entered a code on a keypad, then placed his thumb against a small silver panel. The familiar slight burn of a DNA scan followed. Verified, Daniel Winters. The elevator reported in a soft, feminine voice. Why is every fake voice in this place female? The corners of his mouth quirked up in a smile. The shop was named after his grandfather, so people rarely used Daniel's actual last name around him. To protect the store, he never used his real name when he was on jobs for the agency, not to mention that he often dyed his hair or changed his appearance. The CIA agent had been everyone from the dark-haired Daniel Goldstein to the red-headed, green-eyed Daniel Travers. Disguises and aliases weren't always necessary, but they were damn fun. Another fringe benefit of working for the company. A few fake, cute jokes about his childhood here and there, and no one ever suspected he was lying through his teeth about his background, even if they already knew he was a CIA agent. It was almost like people wanted to be lied to. Maybe they merely enjoyed the fantasy. The elevator lurched and zoomed down. He watched the display as the numbers and letters changed. B1, B2, soon he'd hit B10. The doors separated and Daniel stepped into the main Special Assistant Division lab space. Row after row of raised black lab benches and tables lined the cavernous area. Swarms of men and women in lab coats surrounded different devices in various states of repair or construction. In one corner, ventilated hoods allowed them to work with noxious chemicals or potentially dangerous agents. But the real hardcore hazards of that nature were handled in a different room. Wonder what Tommy would pay to visit a place like this. Some devices looked exactly like a layman might expect to find in a place like a CIA lab. Sleek, metallic drones or unusual guns. Others were disguised as simple objects, clothes, toiletries, and even pumpkin seeds. Huh, glad to see we have a few surprise deadly pumpkin seeds around, if that's what those are. Last time I saw seeds, they were gas bombs. The disruption of the return of Orosarin and magic might have slowed the advance of human technology, but it hadn't halted it, especially in the hidden labs of government intelligence agencies. What humanity lacked in magic, they made up for in technological ingenuity. The back wall of the room was covered with massive metal bin-filled shelves, many reaching halfway to the ceiling. A computer-controlled arm was available to retrieve the bins far above the height of even the tallest man. Entire rows of computers lined the far walls of the two remaining sides of the room, but most of the workers used augmented reality goggles and linked AR gloves for their computing needs. For all the exotic sights in the lab, there was one thing Daniel never saw: Orosarins. No elves, dwarves, gnomes, kilaueas, or any of the thousands of species from Earth's sister planet. No Orosarin was trusted on the research floor, even if some worked for the company. It was a Senate directive known to very few. For now, they didn't even trust the magicals who were native to Earth, such as witches and wizards. After all, magicals had participated in the cover-up of magic, which meant they'd kept the country less prepared for potential threats than they should have been. Daniel was sure that would change in the future. He would make sure it did. The old government ways of dealing with magic had been focused on total suppression. Without that as a possibility anymore, they needed to adapt and take advantage of any resource they had. They couldn't allow a magical gap with other countries. An elegantly dressed older woman with silver hair neatly pulled back in a metal clip emerged from a side door and walked toward him. "Hello, Nessie," he greeted her in an affable tone. She gave him a tight smile. If she had a problem with the nickname, she hadn't let him know. "Daniel," the woman replied, her voice smooth. She nodded toward the door she'd just stepped through. "Come with me. I need to give you some information on your Munich assignment. The agent followed the older woman into her small and Spartan office. She pointed to a chair in front of her cherrywood desk, walking around it to sit in her own chair. A large box set sat on the edge of her desk. Nessie folded her hands in front of her. I trust you're ready for the new assignment? I was ready for this last week. You guys simply kept pushing it back. Proper resource distribution is always a consideration in missions of this nature. The woman nodded. Very well then. The assignment is simple. You'll go to Germany to rescue a dead man from the tomb where he's been resting for 100 years. Then you'll deliver him to some contacts to be flown to a secure location. I'm rescuing a dead man? He chuckled. Drinking on the job, Nessie? Very amusing, Daniel. Such a droll sense of humor. I'm serious. Dragging around the dead is a bit above my pay grade. Nessie shrugged, leveling a look at him. Get the man out of his sarcophagus in Munich. I'll pass along all the particulars to your company phone for review. And who is this man? She offered him another thin smile. You don't need to worry about that right now. Just concentrate on the recovery. Of a body? Am I robbing a grave? Nessie shook her head. No. Our information suggests he's a man in need of a rescue, not a body, and he's not in a cemetery, but in a sarcophagus being stored with some archaeological and historical artifacts. Daniel sighed and shrugged. Not a dead man, but he's in a sarcophagus. He must be flipping out. Who is this man, and why don't we need an entire team? The sarcophagus belongs to a man named Gunter Holst, who died in World War II. Come on, Nessie, makes sense. Did they push poor dead Gunter out to make way for the guy who's entombed alive? It's a little more complicated than that. You're talking in riddles, my favorite. Gives the mission an added level of difficulty. Why do we care about some crusty German from a century ago? She shook her head. We don't. You're correct. We don't believe the man inside is Gunter Holst. Part of your assignment is to recover a body that will appear dead and ascertain his identity. Our information suggests he might be a useful asset in terms of dealing with magical threats. Appears dead. Got it. That's a new kind of spooky. But you're not even sure who he is. Just that he's important enough that I go rescue him? His identity is unclear at this time. Nessie cleared her throat, giving herself a moment. We have reason to believe that he's been in that box for 100 years. And not dead and gone. Daniel smiled, looking around the room. Is this some kind of prank you're pulling off for the Christmas party? Come on, you almost had me. Nessie released a deep sigh and waited. He spun around, holding up his phone to detect infrared lights that would give away a hidden camera. Nothing but the usual array. She shook her head. No, it's not a joke. A human who's been lying in state for over 100 years. Since 1943, to be exact. We've received a tip from a reliable source that suggests it would be to our advantage to recover this man, though. Daniel let the smile drop. Nice understatement there, Nessie. Okay, so I need to go rescue a dead man who's not really dead, who's older than shit, who may or may not be there, and who may or may not even be someone worth rescuing. Yes, that would be an accurate summary of the situation. Is this a problem? He shrugged. I've dealt with worse missions. Nessie unfolded her hands. Excellent. You'll be working with Ronnie on this assignment. She shook a finger at him. Don't mess with her head this time. No more telling her stories about weird artifacts. I see her talking to herself enough as it is. Poor thing. She's talented, and I'd hate to have to revoke her security clearance. Daniel grinned. You don't even want me to tell her about the Horn of Ragnarok that I had to stop from being sounded to prevent some giant serpent destroying Norway? The woman rolled her eyes, but she was still smiling. I'm far less credulous than Ronnie, and I don't have time for jokes. I need to get you signed off on all your devices so you can catch your flight. She pushed the box forward. Nessie grabbed a small gray electronic signing pad with an attached stylus. First things first, you'll need to sign for everything. The agent laughed. What am I signing for? Half these things break in the middle of missions anyway or don't work. Advanced technology often has bugs, and don't ever dismiss the power of the bureaucracy. They merely want to be able to dock your pay for the millions it costs them to make it if you lose them. A nice excuse. Even if they don't work? Nessie nodded. At least they'll have a chance to examine why they failed. Daniel laughed. You keep telling me that, but the reliability of a lot of these gadgets doesn't seem to improve. She snorted. That's only partially our fault. You keep breaking things too, Daniel. I'm not exactly a guy who works in an air-conditioned office. I simply want a few reliable toys. What about your car? Nessie smirked. You seem to believe it's reliable enough. You got me there. He stood and looked down into the box. So, what do we have here? He picked up a few silver discs with small buttons, broad frequency jammers. It also looks like we've got a few single-use EMPs, lockpick kits, physical and electronic. There was nothing surprising about those. Those were standard gear on most missions. Nessie pointed to the pad. Sign, please. She tapped the box. The tie pin inside is a single-use stun grenade. Just bend it and throw it. Daniel scribbled down another signature, then picked up a simple gold ring. Kind of my style, but what does it do? Holographic decoy. It lasts about 1 minute. Even provides a realistic thermal signature. The agent whistled. Nice. Very nice. Nessie nodded. Try to find an excuse to test it out. We don't have any decent field data on it yet. He chuckled. Another guinea pig run? I can think of a variety of uses for such a device once we perfect it. She shrugged and pulled out some silver glasses. Standard disguised AR glasses. These will rely on your company phone to interface with Ronnie. Daniel held them up. Nice and stylish. Does the company have a fashion designer on staff? Nessie rolled her eyes. The agent picked up the last item in the box, a small white orb. What's this? They call it a chameleon ball. Optical camouflage, not total invisibility. You'll have a blurry little outline, and it only lasts a few minutes, but it's still quite good. He grinned. I'm not complaining. Nessie nodded. Good. Stop by the armory on your way out for your firearm, but you'll still need to sign here for it. Daniel scribbled down yet another few signatures. With the exploding rounds? A small number, yes. We don't anticipate you needing many for this job. The agent narrowed his eyes. But there's nothing in here for raising the dead. She leaned back with a faint smile on her face. You'll have to figure that out. Why hasn't anyone tried to rescue him before now? Lack of intel, dear Daniel. He's been a very well-kept secret till now. Get going. Oh, and try not to break anything. You do care. She shook her head. I meant the equipment. And yes, Mitch, I would love some of that equipment too. And the supplier is in my brain, in my imagination. But yes, that would be awesome. I hope everybody's day is going well. And like I said, Friday, 1 p.m., Zoom lunch, we'll have a special guest. If you entered this week, you have a chance to win a pizza. 5 lucky fans will get a pizza delivered to their door in time for the Zoom lunch. And on the 29th, the author guest will be Craig Martell. So I hope to see you all there. Tomorrow we'll do chapters 5 and 6. If you want to dig in faster than I'm going, the whole box set of 4 books is already out, and it's 99 cents. This Sunday, War Mage 4 will be out. It's on pre-order now. And Goth Drow is on pre-order already as well. And the Last Valkyrie, book 3, will be out soon too. The continuation of the Finnegan Dragonbender story. I think I covered it all. I'm working on also more Lyra for you at the same time. So I'm going to get back to all the writing stuff. Hope you all are having a good day wherever you are, and a safe one, and a happy one. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. If you missed a day, you can always catch it at the YouTube channel. Talk to you all later.